Torah Or, Parshas Vayera, page Yudalid, second column, last paragraph. We just started this, but we didn't get too far in it. So the Rebbe is explaining that the parsa between Atzilus and higher than Atzilus is what's called Makom Panui, because there is absolutely no connection. And therefore it's like the person has to remove the entire Seichel and re-reveal a limited amount of Seichel for the Talmud. But now he says, and bein bria to Yitzir and so on, a Rav wants to explain the great seichel to his student. The student can't accept it as is, so what does he do? He has to give a mashal like Mishle Shteimer. The Shmachem Isha Zara. Like Shema speaks in Shirashim and all over the place about being careful from this foreign women, so much is marshal and Nimsha, which speaks about Avodah Zarah, which is Zarah Divrei Torah. So B'chal, marshal, the whole relationship between Hashem and the Jews, Shlomo HaMelech gives a marshal of a man and a wife. The man and wife has nothing to do with Hashem and the Jews. Or like Or and Mari, gives a marshal from the Ur HaShemesh. It has nothing to do with the Shemesh. But in order for us to understand it on that a certain level, they give us a mashal that we can understand. They give a mashal or in Torah B'chlal from physical things. Okay, so he says that's different than the parsa between Atzilus and Keser. He says this mashal that a person gives is minyanim achedim, is completely different things. Like we said, Ard HaShemesh has absolutely nothing to do with Ard of Elokus. There's no connection where one's Ruchni is, one Gashmi is. It's completely different. But Rak Shabei Val Yodei, in it and through the Mashal, Yuven HaSeichel. Therefore, he's mafsik, the person giving it, separate between what he's teaching for the Talmud to understand with foreign objects. It's like the parsa curtain, which is not the light, to cover the light, that the people on the other side of the light can handle the light. That's the parsa between Atzilus and Bria, which is Mosech Mavdul Ledabim Minyanim Achedim, which is, so to speak other things. Shalai Me'inyan Atzilus, which is not comparison to Atzilus at all, 28, which is Chochma Ba'efin Acher Umuhus Acher, because the Chochma of Atzilus is completely different than the Chochma of Bria. Like you said before, Chochma of Atzilus is only the potential of Chochma. Chochma of Bria is actual Chochma. So there's really no connection whatsoever between Chochma of Atzilus and Chochma of Bria. So how is it possible that Chochma of Atzilus comes into Chochma of Bria? So it has to go through a mashal. What does a mashal do? A mashal is not seichel. A mashal is something separated, something different that separates between Atzilus and Bria. Because Bria cannot handle the level of Chochma the way it's in Atzilus. They have parsa, which is physically means a curtain, which means something separated. It's not the mashal, it's not the or. In fact, it's a covering over the or. Based on its level, that the Talmud should understand the seichel. Min ha-mashal u'mitzchadish ha-mechinas chochma. Gamken, he also has a level of chochma. In other words, like this. You want to understand revelations of Elokus. The only way we can understand it, because we don't understand Ruchnias. We're Gashmias. So the only way we can understand it is by the concealment of the Ruchniistic concept with something Gashmias, the Mashal, or Hashemesh, for instance, that we can have a little bit of understanding what it means. Now, what is the mashal of Ar Shemesh to Or Elokus? That the Or in the Makar is bottle. When does it become something? When it leaves the Makar. Then it looks like something. Right? And that Or comes into different levels. And then that Or to come down has to be limited through various different methods. So we can understand that Elokus, that the revelation of Elokus within Elokus is completely bottle, and Or is still connected to the Mar, because Or, just like Or HaShemesh, reveals the sun. And as you look outside, like we learned, you see sunlight. You don't necessarily see the sun, but you know for sure that this is sunlight. Why? Because Or reveals the Mar. So therefore, Elokus, the Or, the Gilui of Elokus, reveals what Hashem is. But it's nothing to do with each other. It's a completely different thing. It's not taking a concept and just explaining it lower without a mashal. So it's you're lowering it from 1 to 2 or to 3. But here when you're talking about a mashal, means without the mashal you can't understand it at all. And therefore the mashal is really nothing to do with the nimshal, with the thing it's giving a mashal for. And he said, and therefore Bria is also called Yesh Me'ayin. Now, the Rebbe explained before that Atzilus, from higher than Atzilus, is Yesh Me'ayin. And he said, why? Because in order for Chochmah to exist, there has to be, like you said before, the tzimtzum of removal. Because higher than Atzilus is completely infinite. There's not even 10 levels. There's no levels. It's completely infinite. Now you want to create, granted each level is infinite, Chochmah is infinite, Bina is infinite, Chesed is infinite, they're all infinite, but there's still Chochmah and Bina and Das, 10 levels. And Chochmah is not Bina and Bina is not Das. So therefore it's Chochmah Ma'ayin Timotzi. Okay? But he says, in a similar vein, it's from Atzilus to Bria. Because Atzilus is Elokus. Bria is, therefore Bria is also Yesh Me'ayin. Because the Gilui of Bria comes through a parsa, a mashal, so to speak, that has nothing to do with the nimshal. So it's also a form of Yesh Me'ayin. It's not the same Yesh Me'ayin that Atzilus is from higher than Atzilus. Because the separation is much greater.
The parsa between Atzilus and Bria is Yesh? Or is it Ayin or is it both?
It's the intermediary between the Atzilus and Bria, therefore it's composed of both. It's revealing the Seichel, but it's covering it at the same time. The Parsa is Gilui and Helam. The cup of water is revealing water to you that you could drink it. But it's limiting the water. But without that cup, you have no water. Without the mashal, you have no seichel. No understanding of the seichel, because it's too deep. Shlomo HaMelech took the deepest inyanim and gave out through a mashal.
I think I understand.
What you say before?
Then you have a big problem. If you think you understand, at least if you think, and I know that I don't understand, then you make more sense. What?
Say about before Shlomo HaMelech said about the strange woman. How does that?
He gave a mashal of the relationship between Hashem and the Jews of a husband and wife. And he says, be careful from a foreign wife. Be careful from a Veda Zara. Hashem is not the male and we're not the female. It's a whole different story. But we can understand the relationship between Hashem and the Jews. But in Shir Hashirim, Shlomo HaMelech calls us Isha. There's Basi Lagani Achesi Kala. There's Biti. So there's Biti, Achesi, Rayasi, and then there's Imi. Batara Sha'at Le'imay B'yem Chasinusay. So you have Imi. So Shlomo HaMelech and Mishlei, in Shir Hashirim, gives the mashal of the Eden relationship with Hashem with 4 things. Yeah? Mother, daughter, sister, wife. Now, why does he say the same different mashal for the same relationship between Hashem and the Jews? Because there's 4 distinct relationships between Hashem and a Jew. It's like a mother and a daughter and a sister and a wife. Each one is a different relationship. And the Shusterman was saying by Yidden, but again, it's nothing to do. A bas and a father and a bas has nothing to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and us. Or Hashemish has nothing to do with the Gilu of Atzilus. It doesn't. But that's the only way we can get something out of it. He says, it's a parsa, which is Tulda, an art of a offshoot. Like we said, the light on the other side of the curtain is a completely different type of a light. That the Or Chachma comes into Bria like a mashal seichel shemischadish eitz latalmid min hamashal. Shamalei shamashal binyan acher. He tells him the mashal is something else completely, but he understands a little bit the way it is in the nimshal. That's about seichel zeh chadish esay, which is new through the mashal. V'kach or zeh debriya is or chadash shemischadish idei parsa. Okay, so he says like this: Atzilus is tikkunim. Bria tir nasiya are the levushim. From higher than Atzilus to Atzilus is a symptom of siluk, of removal. The symptom from Atzilus to Bria is also yesh mi'ayin, but not as much of a yesh mi'ayin than it is from Atzilus to higher than Atzilus. Okay? He says like this: V'hinei hamaskol yovin, an intellectual person will understand the concealment of seichel of the Rav when he gives the mashal. Sha'amar l'talmida who say shekol chachmasi batzmutzei umelubish b'masal zeh v'lei b'kerech levadel b'peil mamish. He said you can understand that in the mashal lies the entire seichel of the Rav. The entire seichel of the Rav is in the mashal. Because through the mashal you can eventually understand. That means there's a symptom. Just like it says in Chumash. In the 40th year, before Moshe Rabbeinu was dying, he says, Hashem didn't give you the level of das to understand Matan Torah Ada Yemezeh. So from there, the Gemara learns out, you don't understand the seichel of your Rav for 40 years. But in that seichel, that it took you 40 years to understand, all the way at the beginning, is the entire seichel of the Rav. So the uniqueness of the mashal is that the entire seichel of the Rav is in the mashal. That's why Chassidus says that any mashal given in Chassidus is correct in all details of the mashal. Sometimes Alter Rebbe even in Tanya says, "Ein adayma mashal and nimshal." It's not similar in a certain respect, but generally speaking, a mashal has the entire seichel of the Rav in the mashal. What?
Could it be that the pass of the Bria and Atzilus before Bria, before Malchut of Atzilus, before time? Could it be that in potential there are other physical worlds?
No.
Why?
Because Torah says Hashem created this world, Gashmias. What do you mean other worlds? Other planets?
No. Like animals with the history of time.
No. Torah says no.
Torah doesn't say
Torah says that this world Hashem created. There's no other Gashmistic world that will never work. They're spiritual worlds. They're like Teo, Teko, Nakudim, Nakudim, Brudim, Ak, and all those levels up there.
So they could not be a Martian.
No, there could be life. The Rebbe writes there could be life on other planets. It's not a stira. No people on other planets.
But it could be on their planet. Not human being.
Life, whatever, yeah.
The dinosaurs were 10 billion years old.
No,
Could it be?
no. It just can be. Torah says no.
So what's in between Makom and on the other side of Parsa, where there is potential? What's in potential? There is potential.
But by Hashem, ein koyach chaser poil. Potential is not lacking the action. Yesterday in the Yom Yom, not that it was a Yom Yom Revi b'Shabbos, yeah?
Yes.
We say, Hanaita eisen halay yishma, im yetzer ayin halay yabit. What's David HaMelech saying in Tehillim? If Hashem can make ears, can he not hear? If he makes eyes, can he not see? Yeah, what's he saying? No, what David HaMelech Chassidus explains is that L'mayla, we can't understand it is. The potential is the actuality.
That's what I'm saying. In actuality, within potential, there could...
But there is no other worlds.
No, I didn't say there are other words. I said...
By Hashem, the potential and the actuality is the same thing. David HaMelech said, Hanaita eisen halay yishma. If he makes an eye, that means he has the potential to make an eye. Can he not see? That means in the potential is already the seeing. It's interesting. You have a simple pasuk in Tehillim, or whatever it is, like right before the Baruch Nafshis, yeah? It says, Va'atahu u'shnei la yitamu. You are you, Vatahu, and your years never end. Okay. Those three words, Ushnisecha lo yitamu, are so contradictory. Shnisecha means your years, which is time. Lo yitamu, never end, meaning it's timeless. Right? So how could it be that your time is timeless? It's a contradiction of terms. But va'atahu means in the level of ato, there's simultaneous time and above time. What's called in the Tshuvas Rashba, nimna nimnois. There's nothing Hashem can do. Yeah, but that's for sure. Everything here is Amunah. We don't understand anything. Rak lefi she'inyan chachma mlubish bay shalei mi'mayla saseit minyan seichel chachma batzmusay elayatil lamish leikinyani. He says like this, l'chein haskola sarav be'inyan shemiramis bay. Therefore like this, when the Rav gives the mashal, so the Talmud is understanding a little bit of the Rav Seichel through the mashal, even though one thing has nothing to do with the next. But the truth of the matter, in the Rav Seichel, it's all there. He says, Ein askola nira v'niglas Talmud. He says that the Talmud only understands al pi hamashal shu inyan acha menes char seichel shenikra seichel chod. It's a new seichel for the Talmud. Ava mikama kaim. Ha-seichel ha-chodesh hazeh, this new seichel of the mashal, is b'mhusi v'kvar hoya le'lamim u'merumas hakol b'mashal. Is always existing in the mashal. That means as far as the Rav is concerned, the mashal doesn't cover anything. It's not concealing anything. The mashal is only a seichel chodesh for the Talmud. But in the Rav, in the mashal, sees the whole seichel of not something separated. In the mashal, he sees the art of ruchnius in the gashmistic mashal of Or. In other words, the fact that Or HaShemesh is revealing Ruchnius Dika Or, why is that? Because Gashmius Dika Or, source is Ruchnius Dika Or. How does it come that Or HaShemesh, that the Or is leaving the Shemesh, then it becomes something? And how is Or revealing the Mar? Right? Why is it like that in Gashmius? Because Lepel and Ruchnius is like that. So when Hashem created the Or, the Shemesh with Or, it's really that whole essence of Or in Ruchnius is revealing the Mar. It's revealing the source. The Kach, when you Salmon establishes Chochma Vatzilus in a parsa to create Chochma Bria, Shechochma Datzilus Umosiv Atzmos Bepel Mamish Amislabish Bechinis Parsa. This now the Rebbe says it many times. When you have, what he's saying is like this. Therefore, Chochma Vatzilus is really coming into Chochma Bria. The whole Seichel Arav is in the Mashal. So he says, Chochma Datzilus B'muhusiv Atzmusiv B'peil Mamish Mislabeshes Bechinas Parsa, and it caused the Chochma of Bria to exist. Chochma the Bria Afal Pishur Chodosh, even though seemingly it's a new Or, it's Yesh Migayin, Mikama Kem Kvayesh Eza Erech V'yachas and Chochma Datzilus, it's still connected to Chochma Datzilus. The Rebbe in Tanya in many places says, Atzilus comes into Bria, Bria comes into Yetzirah, Yetzirah comes into Asiya, Asiya comes into the body, right? Therefore, in the body, you have the level of Chochma Atzilus. Because the concealment is only as far as the creations of Asiya, Yetzirah, and Bria are concerned. As far as the Rabbi is concerned, there is no concealment in the mashal. The mashal is only for the Talmud. Symptom, like we learned in Shaykh Bamuna, the whole concealment of world is as far as we're concerned, because it's not revealed as much. But like we mentioned yesterday, if you hide behind a curtain, you are not hidden from yourself. You are only hidden from somebody else. So if you have a curtain of parsa, yeah, and the parsa on the other side of the parsa, you don't see the real the person, yeah. That's only as far as you're concerned. As far as the person himself is concerned, he's all over the same.
So the Torah that we have down here is the exact same Chochmah.
Correct. It comes down in a way that we can understand it also.
From our perspective.
Yeah. But the truth is, we don't understand anything. Because it's Seichel V'Alukus. In other words, when a person goes to learn, they have to make Birchas HaTorah, right? Noisin HaTorah. And we learned already, why Birchas HaTorah is so important. Because if a person goes to learn, and he says, oh, I understand it, I'm brilliant. Yeah? That is completely the opposite of Torah. It's Samamavis. Then Torah becomes poison. Why? Because then you're taking Torah and you're making it into something physical. I understand. How can a physical, limited brain understand infinite God wisdom?
The Tzaddik understands the mashal.
The tzaddik understands the mashal on his level. Now, can the tzaddik go higher in the level of understanding? Of course. That means his seichel is still limited. So when a person learns Torah and they're going in to learn, they say like this, really, there's no way I can understand this. Hashem is in infinite kindness, allows the the person to think he understands it, which is reality. Halachically, he understands it. Alpidin, he gets the mitzvah learning Torah. If a guy says, I'm a Kaddish as a Isha, and the Kaddish I understand is Maimon. If he understands it on a human level, it's a Kedusha. He doesn't begin to understand what he's talking about. So that's why a person, I told you, I had a Rabbi, which grade was in my 5th or 6th in Chicago. Well, it wasn't a Chabad school, it was a regular from day school. But when we were learning Gemara, we were just kids starting Gemara like a year earlier. So he would tell us something in the Gemara, he'd say, Rabbi, the Gemara doesn't make sense. That's okay, the Gemara doesn't make sense. I never, how many years ago this is? I was in 5th grade probably. 6th grade max. So he threw us out of the class. So get out. 10 seconds he threw us out. Then he calls us back in. But he says to remember it. He says, let me tell you something. The Gemara makes sense, you don't. Don't think Gemara doesn't make sense. Gemara is Torah. Torah is the wisdom of Hashem. The Gemara makes sense. You don't understand it because you don't make sense.
But halacha say you understand halacha. You understand halacha. You understand you're not supposed to be present.
We understand the practicality of it. The do's and the don'ts we can understand. Right. Do you know the reason for it? No. Okay. So we don't understand it. Shlomo HaMelech understood. Except Paradum. So we don't understand. But without the Rebbe is saying over here that the whole Chochmah of the Rav, the whole Chochmah of Atzilus, is in B'rir Yitzir Nasiyah. He says like this. Masha'enkim b'tzimtzim li'ar insof li'as Atzilus is almas ar v'adari at she'ena ela b'shem klal, and therefore it's called Chad v'lei b'chushban. The Rebbe is explaining because Atzilus from higher than Atzilus is complete, not like the Rav and the Moshel, where the Seichel the Rav is in the Moshel. Atzilus from higher than Atzilus is, like you said, Makom Panui, so that level is not in Atzilus, but it's complete bittul. Therefore he says, Antu Chad v'lei b'chushban.